Hey guys, Carl here. I just got a new Lowrance Ghost Indicator kit in the mail. I'm going to go through and fit that. So I've already gone and taken the old head off, the PCM board, the GPS unit, the heatsink and the gear case cover off. If you want to know how to do that, I've got a video on doing the bearing. You pretty much got to go through the same process. Some of the items that come in the new kit will be the new head, new gear case cover, couple of new cogs, new arrow indicator, new belt, some new screws, some heat shrink, and all that sort of stuff. Some of the tools you're going to need to do this: some snips, some torque bits, Allen key, Stanley knife, and a lighter for the heat shrink. I've gotten it down to a stage so I'm not boring you with taking all that apart. I've already filmed that stuff. It's in a video. I can link it in this if you want. But anyway, so I'm at pretty much the stage where I'm going to start taking some little bit more out of this and then changing some stuff. So the next step here is I'll take the belt off the actual motor to do that Allen key on the side, just to loosen the tension off. And that belt should just slide off like so. Place them aside. That gear come off. I'll leave the bearing in place. The other bearing in the top of that, just place that over there. We can now look at taking this one off and the belt, placing that aside. You're going to actually discard these. You can probably hold onto the belt as a spare, but that magnetic indicator thing you can pretty much go in the bin. All right, now we're going to take this gear off and then look at putting the new one on. Just before you do, just take note of where the arrows are actually pointing, and that's probably going to save you a lot of time later. So in this case, I know I'm facing that way, and then with my magnetic, it was also facing at each other, and that's going to line the two your arrow indicator up on top to the trolling motor when you replace it. Right, so these two will have arrows on them. So obviously this piece will replace that piece. That replaces the magnetic one. Should be just two little torques in here. And that whole gear will come off. Just take care not to damage any of the plugs on the trolling motor. Cool. Place that one aside. Now we're in the part of reassembly. So I'm just going to have a quick look at that, make sure it's all clean. Right, I can now look at putting this gear combo back on. Just feeding all the wires through the center. Again, being careful not to damage them. Right, and that will sit roughly there. You can get the screws that come out of the old gear one. I'll go straight back into these holes. Right, tighten them up, make sure they're firm, and we're good. Get the new belt, feed it over top of all of that, get it roughly in place, get your new indicator, make sure the arrows are pointing each other, and that will just slide on. Like so. It seems rather loose, to be honest. I might just check with the old belt. Yeah, that old belt seems a lot better. Not sure why that was really loose. I'm going to run with my old belt. Famous last words, I'll probably end up pulling it apart and swapping the belts back over, but that feels a lot better to me. Alright, gear cog can go back on. Feed it over top of that. That can go in there. There's no indicators to line it up, it just slides in, and then you can slide the belt back on. Alright, the belt doesn't want to go back on. There we go. And then retension this. Again, you don't want it super tight, but you don't want it loose. So just a little bit of deviation in that belt and it should be good. Alright, next one will be the gear case. So again, just making sure all those cables are out of the way. You're going to feed all of these cables through that hole. Again, making sure not to damage them. All the cables are out of the way. Push it all the way in. And you can put so these come with new gear case screws. You can put all the new gear case screws back in. That's the little Torx that come with it. Just careful not to over tension them. Just making sure that they're in a good firm position. You don't want to crack anything. Make sure everything's back in place. There. Got all of them in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That looks like all of them back in there nicely. All right, you can go ahead and reconnect your transducer cable, making sure not to cross thread it or cross pin it. Doing up the little lug. You can also lay those cables back where they were supposed to be. You can get the little zip ties that were provided. And they get zip tied back to that gear case. If you can get the zip tie through the little spot it's supposed to go. There we go. Always trim your zip ties. I like to bend the tip of them a little bit, and just makes it a little easier to go through where it should. We can go ahead and reconnect your power. So black to black, white to white, just getting the heat shrink that was provided in the kit. Placing the heat shrink back over, plugging them back in. You can also apply some dielectric grease at this time if you want. I already did put a little bit on there before I started recording, so. Plug them back in, put the heat shrink over top of the connection, make sure it's centralized. And you can use a heat gun. It's probably better to use a heat gun. I don't have one, so I'm just going to use a lighter. Add some heat, not making sure that the heat doesn't melt anything else within the case, but get it all shrinked all the way down. You can also get a little bit of super glue to put on each end if you really wanted to. It doesn't look like the best of heat shrink that was provided in the kit. It's not double walled, it's not glue inside of it, so you can get some super glue and just dab on each end just to seal the ends if you really wanted to. That can get all pushed back into the case. Right, and then it should be a matter of just putting the PCM board back on, the heat shrink and the GPS module. So the next one will be the heat shrink, sorry. Making sure the cables are down properly. Reusing the same screws that came with it. So that screw I just put in there is in actually the wrong spot. So I put it in there on purpose just to hold it in place so I can get these ones in, and then I'll take that one back out and put it in the right spot. Nice and firm. Now it should be a matter of putting the PCM board back on. Quick look, make sure it's all good. And then plugging all your plugs back in. Again, just being careful because there's not that much room for you to actually maneuver the cables. You're gonna have to work pretty close to where it needs to go. Before I can continue, I'm going to have to pull it all apart because I have left a wire behind the gear case. Anyway, that's basically the sum of it. And yeah, now I've got to pull it apart. I'll turn this back on when I get back to where I was at to. All right, I'm back. So I made a little mistake and I accidentally left this one behind the cog behind there. I've taken it all back apart, which was just, again, pulling that gear case off. Got the cable back out. Now I'm back to zip tying the cables back in place where they live. And I'll screw the gear case back down. A few different things that I've noticed between this gear case and the other one is the pin for the bearing here is a lot tighter than the original one. So just, if you do have to take it apart, just be careful not to damage anything in there. All right, back to Torx. Should be quite a few of them. They can all go back in. Again, don't over torque them. This is a relatively cheap mod to upgrade your trolling motor, to be honest, rather than just buying a Ghost X. This, yeah, I mean, like this trolling motor has been pretty good in its life whilst it's been on the boat. Rather than dropping, you know, another, what are they worth, 7K on a new trolling motor. This mod was only was sub $200 upgrade. So, you know, definitely worth the little investment and improve your active target abilities. Knowing which way your trolling motor is actually pointing is going to be quite beneficial. That should be all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, now to the heat shrink. Just making sure you push all the wires back in before you put that on. Otherwise it's going to make your life a little bit harder. Okay, now we're back to where we were. It should be back onto the PCM board. Like I was saying before, you're gonna have to work pretty close to where it actually mounts to the trolling motor, just because these cables aren't very long. Just being quite careful when you do plug them in. You don't want to break them now. Cool. And then the only one that should be left after you put these on will be the GPS board. So thing to note here is one of these screws is different. Which is in fact the one I just jammed into this one, which is why it wasn't tightening. Now if I can get it back out, it goes into this one here, which is the one at the top. I won't tighten him right up until I get the rest in. Just be very careful that you're not just putting them all in one at a time. Otherwise there'll be a bit of deflection through your PCM board and you might break it. So just sort of just put them all in place, tighten them up a little bit, and then put the rest in before you start tightening them all down, and then tighten them down evenly so you're not warping or doing any damage to the PCM board. So now I'll just slowly work my way around just to tighten it up. And again, don't over tighten these. You don't want to do any damage to the PCM board. Have a quick look around, make sure it's all tidy. All the wires are sitting on the inside. And they're all plugged in properly. You can go ahead and replace the GPS module. Don't drop it, don't break it. something doesn't feel right, stop. Don't over tighten that one. And again, make sure you plug it back into the PCM board. Make sure all the wires are all tucked away, and then we can go ahead and look at fitting the top. In this case, it looks like you'll be reusing the original screws. Looks pretty good. All the original screws are a little bit bigger of a torque screw. Let's face it, I'll put two in, a few in, and then I'll go back to fitting this arrow, and then we can end up the video, rather than you watch me screw in about a million torque screws. So I'll put one in a few of the corners, just to hold it on there nicely. Again, you're only screwing in the plastic here, so don't over tighten them. You'll end up just pulling the threads out. Put one more in the bottom. There we go, that will do for now. So, old one, new one. New one's got 3 little keyways in it. And then looking at that, you've got 3 little keyways. And it looks like it just line up the keyways. And then push them in. And that is done. The only thing is left to do is the rest of those screws, and then refit the bottom cover. Yeah, pretty easy job, to be honest. I can't wait to get this out on the water and see if it improves my active target abilities. Other than that, if you have any questions, throw them in the comments. More than happy to answer them. If you are doing the shaft bearing, jump through my YouTube, find the video. It has all the starting procedures that you do this to pull it apart, as well as removing the shaft, replacing the bearings at the bottom end, as well as inside the head. Yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully you can do your upgrade at home and save a bit of money. Cheers, guys.